Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Rookie Division with various wins. Before we have a closer look at all the content, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that do want to take the next step in your game and improve it even more, scan the QR code that is here on the screen or use the link patreon.com/golfclashtommy you can find in the description down below. That will take you to our platform where you can find all our premium guides, checkpoint challenge, tour play, and tournament play. Last but not least, the info box on the right hand side gives you the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, here we can decide to go in 2 ways. So either we go down the center of the fairway just like that in between the bushes, or we are trying to go for green. I will explain a little bit on how to go for green after we have taken this drive. Use 4.5 bar topspin and as much left spin that you possibly can with RX my level 6 here. Adjust max plus 10. And again, we do want this ball to go in between the 2 bushes there in the middle and land down for a short iron to pin. So we bounce on the fairway in between the bushes. You can see how much this fairway slopes left to right. Look how much the ball rolls to the right. Be careful with that. Make sure to use the left spin to kind of counteract that wrestle. So in this case, we are going to be very close to bin line. Here you can either decide to go for a roll back shot where you go past the pin and roll back, or you go for a dunk, or you go for a wedge. I mean, there are many different possibilities for this type of shot. What you need to have in mind though is like when you're taking your drive, you should have already been decided to what type of play you want to do on the second shot. If your intention is to do a short iron, maybe reduce the topspin a little bit, because obviously the more topspin you have, the more inclined you are to be in between clubs or be putting yourself for a wedge. And that's the same thing if you're looking to play with a wedge, then use a little bit more topspin if possible, or a little bit of overpower to get yourself a longer drive, just to avoid the in-between club situation. When it comes to going aggressive here and using the left side, and that depends on what type of ball you can use in my opinion, also what type of topspin amount you can use, because you can roll the ball the whole way on the left side down the hill by the green to roll down onto the green. That's obviously going to be required or dependent on you being a little bit lucky as well, but it's definitely a possibility. Hole number 2, this is a par 3 that I do really enjoy to play. And the reason for that is not to play on the fairway, that is actually to go for a rough bump. But as we are from the front tee more or less always in between clubs, if we're not using like a P0 ball or a P10 ball, then the fairway bounce is, in my opinion, the way to go. Sure, again, if you find a combination that lets you play the rough bump, then that's the way. That's one way to go about it. Max plus 15 is all about using the correct top spin here together with the right spin, because the fairway will push the ball right and the green slopes slightly left to right as well, as you can see there, and it's very easy to miss on that side. If you're interested in going the rough bump, the rough that I'm looking for is the one that is on the top left corner of that rough above the bunker. And the reason I'm so in love with that spot is because there is a very nice sticky spot there, and if you're catching that one correctly, you could definitely give yourself a room to hit great balls and actually drop that one. But the bounce up is definitely the more conservative way of playing, and there you play max plus 15, you use your long iron, and then it's all about finding the correct speed using some topspin together with some right spin. Hole number 3 here, if we do have the wind for it, we do want to go down the right hand side. We're using a power 6 ball here to get there, and that is a Titan that we're using. Use all the topspin that you can together with the left spin And in this case, I'm playing aggressive, I'm going max overpower. Sure, you can lay up shorter than that and then get yourself the eagle still, but you will somewhat not forfeit the albatross, you will just make it be much harder. So we do want to go over the rough and the sand on the right, and have in mind that there is loads of room to hit great zone, so don't be afraid about that. Second shot, we are going to move up and play with our sniper and do a rough bump here by the green. Why do we do a rough bump? It's because we don't really have enough backspin to get the ball to stop otherwise, and also that the rough bump is offering the best possible chance for a drop here. The reason a rough bump is better than a bounce up here is because, and I would say that that is the case in most of the times when we do a rough bump, that's because you can see how short or how small the first bounce is compared to if we would be bouncing directly on the fairway. And the reason that then becomes a better thing is because obviously the smaller bounce we have, the less effect of the wind the ball is going to get. We get into the rough and we are massively over adjusting this one. We need to play this one as uphill, and you could kind of see that when the camera is turning around, that it is an uphill play that we are looking to do, and therefore we need to play it negative, which means a minus elevation in that case. Maybe different spins and such, but at least you get an idea on how to play hole number 3. On hole number 4, we are going straight at the pin using our sniper. Here, you will definitely benefit from using a sniper with a decent ball guideline. Sniper 7 is perfect, as we can then go right at it and use the ball guideline as a perfect reference, so we know that we're not going to come in too hot, we're not going to come in too slow. Using backspin only, and I'm playing with a navigator, which is a power 2 ball, to allow myself to have the wind resistance 4 together with then the power 2. This will make myself avoid the min line when I'm adjusting with my sniper. Obviously the wind will then be reduced as much as I think it's going to be needed. 10% elevation, and here I'm using max numbers for this particular shot, so max plus 10, and we're getting ourselves a nice little drop. The backspin will vary depending on what type of wind direction you have. If you do have a headwind, you need slightly less. If you do have a crosswind, you also need slightly less than what I'm having in the video. So the backspin you can see there in the video is what you can use in tailwind. Take your game to the next level with our Ultimate Tournament Text Guides for Nation Knockout 9-Hole Cup. This is 30 wins as well, which is a perfect chance for you to try out our Ultimate Tournament Text Guide. These guides are just not giving you some text on roughly how to play the hole. This is giving you detailed adjustment in all from spins, adjust elevation, curl, aim point and stuff like that. All of what you would need to be competitive in a tournament without having to spend a bunch of different but a bunch of practice tokens on the practice arena. So make sure to scan the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy via the link in the description down below. And please have in mind that tour guides for the new rotation, Tour 7 up to Tour 13, are out there for you as well. So it doesn't matter what you're looking for, we have something for you. Hole number 5. Here we are bringing out Mr. Big Topper. It doesn't look like it from a start, but eventually we will be doing that. And the reason for that is because we do want to have all the topspin. Now, I'm looking to, should I do like a double bounce over the rough there? Then I kind of decide like, okay, that's going to be a bit risky, especially when Big Topper do not have much accuracy. And that means that if you do hit a great ball, the ball will go more left or more right than what it will be then, let's say, a sniper. So I do decide in the end to go on the left-hand side. No elevation on the drive. I'm doing max numbers, all the top spin, get the ball down there. Excuse me. The intention here is to have a short iron towards the pin. I could see myself playing a long iron too. It doesn't really matter. It's all about getting a consistent drive down the fairway. So you can see here now that I do have the Thorn. Now, +6 means that we are at max distance with a power 6 ball. And therefore I'm kind of backing up a little bit to give myself that room. But you can also see that, you know, if I would be having enough backspin, or I would have been further back, then a long iron would be a possibility too. And to be completely honest with you all, a long iron play here, if your long iron has a better ball guideline than what the Thorn is having, then the long iron play is the way to go. Because as always, when you're playing with lower developed clubs, is that you will have a hard time to estimate how the ball will roll, because you obviously don't see, or you don't have the luxury to see, like, you know, those players that do play with higher level clubs have the luxury to just see the ball guideline. So this one becomes more of a guess where I put the ball guideline, but I'm playing at 10% elevation, getting obviously a little bit lucky getting it around the hole with that shot. Hole number 6 is the hole that I believe is the least amount of fun of the Chateau Lavande. Here, I'm starting with a power 6 ball, using all the top spin that I can with my extra mile and 2 right spin. My intention is to get this ball as far down the fairway possible without rolling into the rough at the top. And obviously with 4.5 bar topspin, I'm not going to be anywhere close. So here you can definitely crank on with more topspin. Just make sure to avoid getting into the rough. Those of you with a good eye may be thinking, like, why use a power 6 ball when you can use a power 7, 8, 9 or 10 ball and get a better needle on the drive? Yeah, that's a very good observation, and that's definitely something I would recommend you to do if you have that possibility. Now, on the approach, if you do have a fully developed sniper, which is sniper 10, then you can play a rough bump. That's the same as well if you're playing with Cataclysm, or or you're playing with the big dog, then you can still use the topspin, you have distance. But if you do find yourself with like an intermediate level or like a lower level of our sniper, we're going to use the ball guideline, we're going to aim at the hole and try to bounce ourselves down towards the pin. Now, don't make no mistake, this is a very difficult drop to get from distance, and it's also very easy to make a mistake here, as we do play with a lot of elevation. And whenever there is a lot of elevation, that means that the ball is very affected by the wind in general. So if you're not then using the correct elevation, or let's say the correct adjustment overall, then you could endanger getting a very bad outcome on this shot. Now, I would consider myself a little bit lucky getting this albatross, but getting an albatross here in this particular hole is definitely super sweet. Hole number 7 is by far the toughest of the par 3s of the Chateau Lavande. And here I'm going for an aggressive rough bump, which is a rough bump above the final bunker, looking to have the inner ring to be by the rough line ball guideline through the hole. Why do I bother going with such an aggressive rough bump? It's because there aren't really many spots behind that is good. Sure, you can bounce on the fairway to the left and to the right, but what that's going to do is that it's going to reward you with a birdie, and also it's going to risk getting into the rough or into the sand if you're using too much backspin. So I make it simple for myself. I use the final piece of rough, relying on the fact that I will be adjusting properly and then hitting perfect. And this gives me also the best chance for a hole-in-one. But just to have that said, just because I look to go for the best chance for the hole-in-one doesn't mean that you have to do that. It all depends on what way you want to play on this particular hole, or what type of outcome you are fighting for. If you're fighting for the most safest way to make a birdie, then use the fairways on either left or right and just land by the green somewhere and just grab your birdie. But if you're looking to push for the hole-in-one, give the rough bump a try. You can try it in practice before you go live if you feel that it is something new for you, and go from there. 15% elevation, mid numbers, using a navigator ball, which is a power 2 wind 4 ball. Hole number 8 has a very weird camera view. You can see here that when you're zooming out, it's basically that you're looking at your target from just completely straight up position. And that's pretty weird. I remember when this hole came into the game and all were like, what the hell is happening here? Well, we can only obviously make this in a good way. Anyway, I'm using the 4.5 bar top spin and 3 left spin with my katana, and I'm starting at P4 max rest. My extra mile level 6, I adjust max plus 25. Yes, it's a very downhill drive here. And once I have adjusted, I'm going to push up in the end. The reason I push up is to avoid having to use overpower. So the ball then plays with approximately half a ball of left curl. The curl will vary depending on what wind angle you have. And my intention is actually to double bounce over the rough there. You can play down on the left-hand side. I would not recommend it though, because playing down the left-hand side, you're not really going to give yourself a better opportunity. Sure, you have a lot of fairway to play on, but if you're looking for any sort of eagle opportunity in a good way, then the right side is the best. So now second shot. Now you need to understand here that this second shot looks very easy, but you have to, how can I explain? You have to kind of think about this one as, okay, so if I play this one bouncing on the fairway, it's going to be a lot of elevation needed to be used because I do play up from a hill. So therefore the plus 30% elevation is listed there. If I do play a rough bump, I will not be having that much effect of the wind, so I have to play that one less. I would say like plus 15, plus 20, possibly something like that. Now, what happens here with this type of shot is when you do have a tailwind, you're often adjusting from a lower to a higher point. What that means is that you're going to gain distance in the air by doing that. And that's the same as well, that if you're doing that from a headwind perspective, you go from a higher to a lower point, then you're going to, sorry, if you go from, yeah, exactly. If you go from a higher to a lower point, you're going to lose distance in the air. And that's something that you really need to have in mind when you're playing a second shot like this. And it doesn't just apply when playing from the front tees. This applies regardless what tees you're playing from, because the second shot is going to be more or less exactly the same. Hole number 9, a lot of fairway spots to kind of make a decision on where to play. I recommend to play with a power 6 ball here. I do want to land on the middle pad, and obviously in a headwind here now, you will not be able to reach here unless you're using a lot of overpower, and therefore don't be afraid of using a power 8 or a power 10 to make sure that you're getting to that spot in the headwinds. In the crosswind and the tailwinds, a power 6 ball is just completely enough. Adjust max plus 10, use all the top spin you can together with right spin. This because there is a push from the fairway spot to go right to left, and we don't want to go into the rough. Second shot, it's either going to be with a long iron or it's going to be with a wood club. I would prefer personally to play a wood club here, especially if my sniper is having a very good ball guideline, which the sniper level 7 has. If you do not have the sniper level 7 or better, or let's put it that way, if the sniper do not have a good ball guideline, then you could as equally well play with a long iron and it's going to be the same. There is a little sticky spot there, and I mean, me personally love a sticky spot, in Golf Clash at least. And trying to catch that is always going to be very interesting, because if you catch that, it's most definitely going to be an interesting and a good chance. 20% elevation here on the second shot, and you can see that even if we only have 2.9 miles per hour in wind, this ball is going to be pushed massively, and that is something that you really need to have in mind when you're playing this hole, that you need to do plenty of adjustment, otherwise you risk coming in too hot. And there is a rough that is just behind the green that I know myself and many others has been unfortunate to end up to, because we misjudged how much downhill it is. But if everything goes well, the alpha approach is definitely in play.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this playthrough for Rookie Division with various wins. If you do want to improve your game even more, scan the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy via the link in the description down below. Last but not least, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications. Those 3 things will help the channel immensely. Thank you once again for watching. I wish you the best of luck in your Golf Clash game.